Hey knitters, welcome to episode 198 of the Knitty McPurly podcast. I'm your host, Devin AT. You can find me on Instagram as Knitty McPurly. I'm at KnittyMcPurly.com. And if you want to email me, I am Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I am drinking tea out of my Michigan mug. Thank you so much, Amy. Hi, Amy, for sending me this wonderful mug from Michigan. I chose it because I am sick. My son came home sick from school last week. It's like back to school sickness season. And I woke up in the middle of the night last night and my throat was killing me and I couldn't sleep and I just felt terrible. So I wanted a cup of tea. I've got throat coat tea in one bag and ginger in the other one. And I wanted a big cup of it. So I got my Michigan mug out because it's huge. My daughter's roommate is from Michigan, so Ann Arbor area, I think. Hi, Ann Arbor knitters. It is gorgeous outside, absolutely stunning weather all week long. It's like you wake up and it's like 40 degrees, and then it just blooms into the most gorgeous fall day where it's like upper 60s and sunny, no humidity. It's just perfection. It's so great. It's like the perfect fall knitting weather. And it's kind of a bummer to be sick, but whatever, who cares? It's all gonna be fine. It's no big deal. You might notice that I am wearing a shawl today. I went anti-shawl for a little bit. I was like full on sweater for like a year. It's been a while since I've worn a shawl. And the reason is because I feel like it makes my face look fat. So Gigi is my 15-year-old daughter, if you are new to the podcast. Gigi and I have this thing where we say to each other, I feel like I look like this. And the other one goes, that's not a thing. And so when I say stuff like that, she's like, that's not a thing, Mom. So, that's all in your mind. That's nothing. So anyway, I put this on and I felt great in it. So this is what I'm wearing today. This shawl is designed by me. This was the shawl to accompany a Lent calendar from 2022, I believe. I think this was the 2022 one. You might be sitting there going, I have that same shawl, Devin, because this was the yarn that went out with the calendar, and this is the pattern that accompanied it. This is a great little shawl pattern. It's got garter, it's got lace sections. It's just a really fun knit. And in my humble opinion, the triangle shawl is the best shape because of this. You just put it on, you tuck these ends under, and you did it. You don't need a mirror and 20 minutes to figure out how to wrap it around yourself. So I do have shawls of other shapes that I like too, but probably my very favorite is the triangle. Several of you, on another topic, should I move off that topic? Am I done talking about the shawl? I forget what it's called. Is this Laetare or Gaudete? I can't remember. It's a Lent word because it was a Lent shawl, but it's over on my website. Anyway, several of you messaged me to say that Gaina, who's British, and her podcast is called Tales from Cuckoo Land. Is that right? I think that's what it's called. She knit a Diggory tee, and several of you messaged me to say, go check out her podcast. She loved it. I believe Gaina knit it top down, didn't she? I still have not watched it. I will though. It's a bottom up pattern, but I think she knit it top down, which is really cool. I could be wrong. Am I wrong about that? I don't know. I'll go watch it and find out. All right, moving right along to progress and shop news. All right, I didn't bring anything up with me, so I'm just gonna be putting up pictures as I talk. There are a few skeins of October left. In the past, when I've run out of the color of the month, I have dyed more, but inevitably what happens is then I get the next month's color and people are like, ooh, and they fall in love with the new color and they forget all about the old color. So whatever's in the shop that's left is what there is. And I'm not saying I'm always gonna do it that way, but that's what I'm doing this month. So I believe that October's color of the month is available in Frankfurt Fingering. I'm pretty sure that's all that's left, but you could go check if you're interested. I also have a bunch of August sock sets, speaking of that phenomenon that I just described. because August sock sets were so amazing that people were like, we love them, we want them, make a ton. And then the supply and demand part of my brain just went, woo, and I just made 1 million. And so I still have some. So if you want an August sock set, go grab one. They are beautiful. They're very summery. If you are a hater of fall, and we now know that those people exist in, numbers. Like there's a bunch of people who really don't like fall because it's the transition into winter and the shorter days and the colder weather. I get it. But if you are a summer clinger, go grab an August sock set because it is just so summery. Okay, another thing that's relatively new in the shop I talked about last week are the kits. I put in 3 kits, 3 sweater kits. The Wildflower Tee kit by Wise Owl Knits, the Jupiter Crop kit by, the design is by Caitlin Hunter, yarn is all by me, but you can go get those patterns from their respective websites. And then also a Go Lightly kit for the Dresden DK, which is that yarn that I showed last week that is Surrey silk, but DK. It's just pure, fluffy, squishy goodness. So as contrast with the Dubrovnik DK, which is your workhorse, super wash, awesome DK regular yarn. So it's got a lot of twist. It holds up really well. It's a really great yarn. I've used it a lot. The Dubrovnik DK is great, but the Dresden DK is something else entirely. So the kits are for the Go Lightly sweater, which is a design by me. All that's over on my website if you want to go check it out. Many of you have picked up kits. It's good to know. Like, it's just more fun to purchase it as a kit, I guess. It's been very popular. So I was thinking, what should I do next as a kit? It would be fun to choose colors and to knit the thing. If it's a colorwork thing, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do it, but what kit should we do next? I saw that Andrea Mowry has a new sweater out for Rhinebeck, which is in the fall. I don't keep up with these things. You guys probably know when it is. Maybe you're going. That's awesome. Send me your pictures. Tell me your knitting stories from Rhinebeck if you end up with any. People that you meet, whatever. That would be great. But it's just not on my radar. But I did see Andrea Mowry's sweater, her Rhinebeck sweater. I think it's called the framed sweater. It echoes the shape of those kind of architectural barrel jeans that I've talked about that are in fashion right now, super popular. It's very on trend and it looks like it'd be fun to knit. It's bottom up and it's got a lot of color work. She says in the description that it's 3 colors, but one of them she used a color change yarn. And so it does all the color for you basically, which is just a yarn that isn't all one color, like a variegated yarn, like a color of the month, one might think. I know Emily made one. Hi, Emily. Hers looked really good. I saw that on Instagram. Did anybody else make that sweater? I don't know. I don't know if you'd be interested in kits for something like that or what, but let me know. If you have a vote, if you're like, oh, I really want to make this, I would love a kit for this sweater, just let me know and I will see what the consensus is and go from there. Coming soon, by popular demand, we will have pumpkin chai balm. I've actually already got this balm all made up. I'm just waiting on the labels to arrive. And when I made it, Charlotte, I think, was out playing. Charlotte is my daughter who's 9. And she comes in and she goes, are you making balm? I was like, mm-hmm. She goes, this one is my favorite. She's just like, oh, it smells so good in here. And it does. I mean, it's pumpkin chai. It's amazing. So anyway, that will be coming out soon as I get the labels, probably in about a week. So keep an eye out for that. I also have some of the coffee shop balm still. I'm out of it in the tubs, but I do have it in the sticks. So that's nice because you can like put it on the back of your hands and then kind of rub them together and you don't get it on the palms of your hands. So I tend to use that a lot while I'm driving because I think a lot when I'm driving, and I always have water with me because it's a great time to get water in your body when you're driving. I drive a lot. And I'll have my stick balm so I can put it on the back of my hands and go like that, and I don't get any on the steering wheel. So that's nice for that. Oh, November's color of the month is coming, and you are going to fall in love with it. Do you remember how I promised moody colors for fall? And then I didn't do that at all for October. I went with the multicolor opal. Well, for November, I poured in all the moody vibes. November has to take it all because then December has got to be fun, you know, Christmas candy kind of colors. So I had to go full on moody and just pour all the mood into November, and it is epic. It is amazing. I'm so, so excited for that. That'll be here at the beginning of November, which is coming up. I don't have my watch on. I don't even know what the date is. My husband's birthday is next week. So it's like the 19th or the 19th? I think it's the 19th. Welcome to my podcast. This is how I am. Finally, the sock club. I need to apologize for not having the signups up yet. This has been like a white whale for me, and I kind of went back and forth on how much I should talk about it because, you know, there's only so much of the back end of business that you guys really need to hear about. You know, you're more excited about the front end of it, so I won't go into it too much, but just to say, I am an artist, people, okay? I am an artist. And so when it comes to tech and having to incorporate another thing within my website, it is a challenge for me. So my husband and I have planned, and we're both sick, so we do have plans to nail this down so that we can get signed up. And it's not a huge deal. It doesn't start until December 1st, but I did say October, and I want you to be able to sign up in October. So as I've said before, watch the newsletter. That's where I'll announce it, and I'll announce ahead of time when you can sign up. I won't just spring it on you. I'll say, you know, plan to sign up at this time, and then you can set a little alarm on your phone, and then you can know when it is and sign up. But I do apologize that it hasn't happened yet. It's just, you know, my brain has struggled. But I'll get there. I'll get there. I can do it. All right. Moving right along to my personal knitting. It has been kind of not a lot. Work has been a lot. I've been doing a lot of things. And do you guys remember last week when I was so excited for my proofing cabinet to come? It was supposed to come last Sunday. And then as soon as I was done with the podcast, my husband said they called and there's a problem. And so now it's not coming until next Thursday. So by this Thursday, I should have the cabinet, God willing. I don't know whether they got it and it was broken or whatever, but so then, and I had my whole shop ready, like my whole studio. I had all the pots put away, I had everything clean and organized and ready to go, ready to accept the new cabinet. And then I was like, oh, I had to get it all back out again, which was fine. It was fine. I mean, really, in the grand scheme of things, is this what I'm complaining about? People in North Carolina don't have running water or electricity, so I have nothing to complain about. But anyway, that happened. So I have been doing a little bit of personal knitting, not a lot. I've lost my mojo a little bit. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But I've worked on the vest a little bit, the Rachel vest. Oh, and I have a little story to tell you about this, actually. So this is, all right, let me show it to you from this side. This is gonna be the front. It ended up kind of wide. Like it's a little bit wide, but I think it's gonna be okay. I might make it a little bit shorter and give it a tug when I block it, because if you have width, when you block it, that width can translate into length. You can stretch it when you block it to reduce the width and get more length. That can work for you or against you. You have to know that that exists. And you can do the same thing with width. If you knit it too long, but you want it a little wider, those things do translate. So I'm working on the front of it right now. And you know, this is the floppy part where I've got the back stitches on waste yarn, and you can see the texture there and the color. This is the Black Forest Cake colorway. Oh, that's where I joined the new skein there. New skein? I thought I only used one skein. I don't know what this is. I don't know what happened here. So yesterday I went to the skate park with Charlotte, because on Fridays we like to do something fun like that, because she works so hard Monday through Thursday and she's such a great homeschooler that I'm like, let's go do something fun on Friday. So yesterday we went to the skate park nearby, and what it is it's a roller hockey rink outdoors. So it's perfect for roller skating and there aren't like flashing lights and loud music like some roller rinks have. Anyway, she did that for a while and there's a park right there. So we went to the park and she's playing on the park. And a lot of times it's just toddlers at the park because it's the middle of the day on a Friday. But this time there was a whole group of homeschool girls, sisters, all adopted sisters. So one of them was the same age as Charlotte, but they all played together because homeschoolers all play together and they don't all need to be the same age, which is a glorious thing. So anyway, Charlotte and I came into the park and they were already there and they honed in on us. Like I could see them looking at us and I was knitting and Charlotte's school age. So I feel like they were very interested in the knitting and they were interested in Charlotte because she's a friend, you know, it wasn't a 2-year-old. And so the girl who was 10 came over and she just sat right down next to me and she goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm knitting." And she said, "What is that?" She said, "I can crochet." I said, "Awesome." She said, "But I want to do that, what you're doing." And so I was working on this and you know how, because it doesn't look like a vest right now, she was kind of like, "What is it?" But I showed her and she asked about the cord and the needle. "What's that about?" And so, I mean, she was just so excited about it. And it wasn't her mom with her, it was a babysitter who was 21-ish, she said. And so the babysitter came over and talked to me, who was also a homeschooler, graduate. And I said, "You know, you can learn how to knit if you want." Her mom wasn't there, but I said, "Tell your mom you want to learn how to knit." And I said to the babysitter, I was like, "Is she allowed to use YouTube?" And the babies, they were like, "Can't use YouTube." And my kids aren't really allowed to use YouTube either. They are supervised. There's a lot of garbage that you can stumble into unwittingly on YouTube. And I just had this thought in my mind. How great would it be to have a series of videos for kids or people who don't want ads and don't want garbage accompanying their video? And I don't even know how you would do that because I put all my videos on YouTube. You need a platform for videos to be on. So I don't even know how you would do that, but it would be really cool to have some sort of a beginner knitter kit that came with videos that were ad-free and garbage-free for kids or just people who don't like ads and garbage. I love that my show is ad-free. I think that's great because I don't want to be interrupted by ads. Last night, I had kids up in the middle of the night because they were afraid of things they had seen on ads. Like when my kids are watching I Love Lucy, I should be able to trust the ads because it's I Love Lucy, but I can't. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But I just thought, you know, I have a lot going on right now through the retreat, but after the retreat, I've got a couple ideas for things to do next. Do you think that's something, do you know anyone who might be interested in something like that? Let me know if you think that that's a good idea or if you think that there are people that would be interested in that. If I were a mom who didn't knit and I wanted a kit for my kids, I would totally love something like that. So it's a thought, maybe for next year. All right, moving right along to the comments section. Dora, hi Dora, says, "Hey Devin, I have knit a couple of hipster hats and need to make several more. I showed the hipster hat last week. It's such a cute hat with the really, really cute decreases." She says, "It's a great hat, so easy, so wearable. It calls for a 2x2 tubular cast on," which I think I said last week that it looked like a special cast on. I've never done the tubular cast on, but I really want to try, and I'll talk about that in a minute too. But Dora says, "I just use the German twisted cast on and it looks great and is so stretchy." That is also my go-to cast on, is the German twisted. But I had been looking today at Andrea Mowry's patterns and a lot of hers use a tubular cast on and a tubular bind off. And I thought that might be fun, something new to learn. Is she having like a pattern sale right now or something? Because I went to Ravelry and like the first 2 pages are all her designs. So I'd be interested to know. Colleen, the selfish knitter, hi Colleen, says, "Someday we will say I knew Knitty McPurly back before she had a proofing cabinet." Back when I had 2 pots in my laundry room, right? Deanna Knopp says, pumpkin spice latte balm. Yes, I went pumpkin chai, but it is every bit as good. It's just so amazing. You're going to love it, Deanna, I promise. Karen Red Baron said, the spiral binding is a win. Last week, Pam told us how she took the sock book to Staples and had a spiral binding put in it. Karen says, I taught partially from a knitting book, and we always recommended students go take their book to Office Depot for spiral binding. And then she says, you talked me into the balm. I hope you love it, Karen. It is one of my favorites for sure. Doggle says, UPS stores also do the spiral binding. I used to work at one and loved doing that. I am at the UPS store every single day. I go to the post office and UPS, maybe not every single day, but almost every day, every weekday. I don't go during the weekends usually, but almost every weekday, 4 or 5 days a week, I'm there. So I should totally have that done. That is a great idea. Deborah Stevenson had a good comment. She says, just a word about the Summer Lee book. I love her stuff. I love her podcast. However, I am currently working on one of her patterns. Loved the picture of a particular sock. It was a charted sock. I specifically bought yarn to use for this pattern. However, I did not notice ahead of time that the chart doesn't match the picture. The discrepancy makes a lot of difference in how the design is perceived. I love the picture, but I don't like how the chart works up. I went back into Ravelry and I noted that several others who have knitted this pattern found the same issue. I had to basically chart it myself to try to match the picture. Further, her instructions for doing the color work and needle sizes doesn't really work. I made my usual gauge. I actually went up a size because I was worried about using the same needle size for ribbing and color work in 2 of the sizes. Worked the entire leg of the sock. I put it on try-on tubing to try, and I can't even get it over my heel. I am pretty annoyed. So Deborah has 2 separate problems here. The first one is that a charted colorwork sock pattern, the chart does not match the design. So that's just a mistake. I feel like if it's on Ravelry, maybe Summer has seen it, maybe someone has brought it to her attention. Designers do make mistakes. This sounds like a pretty significant one, and that my heart just breaks for her, because that's like, it's your worst fear. Like, people have bought yarn, they have set aside their free fun time to work on something, and you as the designer blew it and you have made it a frustrating experience for them rather than a positive experience. So my heart goes out to Summer on that a little bit, actually a lot. And probably once it comes to her attention, she will fix it and come out with an announcement of some sort saying, oops, I made a mistake. Here is the correct chart. So that's the first thing that Deborah is calling attention to. The second thing, and I actually noticed this too, not in my own knitting. I knit one of her patterns. I only knit the one sock. I started the second sock. It started. But I didn't have any problem because I just knit it the way I knit socks. I feel like Summer is a tighter knitter. And so I just cast on 64 stitches and I use my size 1 needles. I don't change for color work or ribbing or anything. And that turned out great for me. So that to me sounds like a gauge problem. And if I'm wrong, Deborah, if it's not a gauge problem, feel free to leave a comment and correct me. But it sounds like it's a gauge problem where Summer is just either working with a different gauge or she's doing a stitch count that worked for her, but that doesn't work for you. If you are a seasoned, experienced sock knitter, I would say just use what you normally use for socks. And, you know, like I typically will use either 2 needles, have 32 stitches on each of 2 needles. That's what I normally like to do for regular socks. But for colorwork socks, I prefer a 9-inch circular because turning the corner with color work can be tricky. You end up with a tight float. So I like the circle knitting for color work socks. But you know, I mean, it's trial and error. You kind of have to see what works for you. I am sorry that you knit that and it didn't fit. That is a bummer. I hate when that happens. I mean, that's kind of like what happened with my sweater, my beautiful sweater that I can never remember the name of, Elizabeth or Charlotte. It's a queen name. I forget it. Isabella. I can't remember what it's called. But that adorable sweater with the puffy sleeve. Anne. It was the Anne sweater. And I made a mistake, and all of the problems were with my own choices. There was no problem with the pattern that I found. It was all my own choices. But it ended up being too small. But honestly, Gigi looks amazing in it. It is perfect for her. So it was kind of a win-win in the end. So, but that's nice because I had a smaller person that I could give it to. That's always nice when that works out. When you have someone whose body fits the size you made accidentally and you can just say, look what I made for you. And they're like, what? Oh gosh. Anyway, all good comments. I very much appreciate them. When you're knitting anything, gauge matters. Not necessarily following their exact directions if they don't work for you, but you kind of have to figure that out. So it can be frustrating. Okay, knitting fantasies. So I have been looking for sweaters to knit because this vest, you know, it's going to end up being a 2-skein project. So all of this plus my swatch that has all kinds of random stuff sticking to it, all of this plus my swatch plus this is 1 skein of yarn. So it really got me pretty far. I have another skein that I'll need to dip into. But as you can see, it's just not super fun knitting. Like, it's just a little bit boring. So I like the crisp stitch definition. I like picking it up for that reason. I pick it up and I enjoy my little stitch definition fix, but then I want something else to work on. I have been planning for a Benedicta and I have yarn for that and everything, and it's beautiful fall. I should just do that, but I have knit that sweater a couple times. So I've been kind of thinking maybe I want to make something different. I also kind of want a cardigan. So so I put a couple sweaters in Knitting Fantasies. The first one I picked because it's new and fabulous. Let's start there. My first pick is Thistlewood by Jennifer Steingass. And this is a gorgeous, gorgeous sweater, as all of Jennifer's sweaters are. She does a great job with this colorful yoke. It also has designs on the sleeves. Some of the test knitters had color work in the body, and I don't know if they charted that separately or if that's part of the pattern, but it is a fingering weight sweater and it comes in 9 sizes. She's a very seasoned designer. I would think it would be a very what you see is what you get kind of sweater if you're interested in that kind of sweater. Now, my other 2 picks are not new picks. I picked them because they came across my view when I went on Ravelry, because something's going on with Andrea Mowry. All of her patterns are super popular. I mean, they are always popular. Andrea does an amazing job. She's extremely talented and knowledgeable, and she looks amazing in everything. So she makes everything look great. So I came across, once again, her LYS sweater, which of course stands for Little Yellow Sweater, but also stands for local yarn store. So it's a little bit of a pun. This sweater is adorable. I love the shape of it. I think this is a great color, though I think I would probably make mine in another color. Not sure what, something bright. Maybe Valentine or Meadow. Valentine is my red and Meadow is my bright green. One of those would be a lot of fun, but she looks amazing in this. It's a great sweater. My only wonder is how it sits when it's unbuttoned. Sweaters like this, I mean, it looks great in the picture, but like on a day-to-day basis, is it flapping open? And do you have to like keep it buttoned for it to lay right? I don't know, but I like it a lot. It's fingering weight. It comes in 8 sizes, super simple raglan shaping with a lot of fun in the cables in the front. Looks really fun. It would only take like 2.5 skeins to make my size. I would make the second size, which would have negative ease. So it would be a fitted sweater. She also has negative ease, I think, a little bit less than I would have. but it's just so pretty. So my second pick, it's my third overall pick, whoops, but my second Andrea Mowry cardigan pick. Did I say I was interested in a cardigan? I was kind of interested in a cardigan. Is the Traveler Shell, which I've highlighted on Knitting Fantasies before. Maybe I should just shut up and knit it because I clearly like it. I love that she designed it for travel as something like if you're buckled into an airplane seat, what could you get on and off easily? It has big pockets, short sleeves. It would look really cute over a fitted top like this one that I'm wearing. Be great for winter where you want a little bit of warmth, but you don't want necessarily a whole big heavy sweater. So this, I believe, comes in 8 sizes. I didn't write it down, but it is supposed to be a lace weight held together with a lace weight. So she's using a lace weight wool, I believe, held together with Surrey silk to give it a little bit of a halo. So lace plus lace equals a fingering weight. And I thought, what could I do? I thought, what if I did a fingering weight like Frankfurt fingering held together with a Surrey silk, which is a lace weight, which would get me like, that's not all the way to a DK, I don't think. Fingering plus lace is not a DK. Fingering weight plus fingering weight would be, is that right? No, I feel like fingering weight plus fingering weight would get you a worsted. So maybe that is close to a DK. But if I did that, I could use the gauge switcheroo worksheet to knit a different size to get the size I want with my own gauge. So that might be fun. Also, it just doesn't look like it takes very much yarn. It's, I think, mostly knit flat, except for the sleeves. I think maybe you knit those in the round. Anyway, looks like a lot of fun. I really like these 2 cardigans. Not sure which I'll pick, or if I'll pick either one. I don't know. All right, so here's what happened. Thank you, knitters, for sending me stories. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There's nothing like a podcast with no story to make people go, what? There's no story? Oh my gosh, I have got to come up with one because Devin cannot go storyless. Like, we have to have our knitting stories. And that's what happened. So thank you, thank you, thank you to those of you who sent them in. However, they're not gonna last forever. This is a weekly podcast. I'm here even when I'm sick. So send me your knitting story, Devin at KnittyMcPurly.com. I would love to share it on the podcast. This week's story comes from Adela Horakova from Czechia, she says. Is that the same as the Czech Republic? I think it is. I don't know. But Adela, thank you so much. Adela has sent me stories before. She writes so beautifully, even though English is not her first language. So she has a really horrifying story to share with us today. I mean, it's a little bit horrifying. So here we go. She says, I've just watched your latest podcast episode and was crestfallen that you had here's what happened. And actually, last night, something happened in our household that I'm going to write to you about. Let me start this little horror story in August of this year. A few of my friends and their kids, now teenagers, were renting a cabin in the mountains for a week. We were hiking a lot and enjoying quiet evenings of wine, knitting, movie watching, and board games. After one of our little hiking trips, we decided to buy some groceries and head for the cabin afterwards. At the register, I opened my backpack and took out my knitting bag with a sock project, which I always carry with me and do a bit of knitting whenever we sit down and decide to have a snack and enjoy the views. So I took it out to make space for the shopping I had done and put it between my thighs just to hold it so I could pack the groceries. As I clenched the knitting bag with my thighs, I experienced a sudden stabbing pain in my left inner thigh as the 2mm Chow Gu circular poked through the knitting bag and directly into my leg. What? I literally stabbed myself with my knitting. I even had to forcibly pull the needle out of my leg, and immediately a blood stain, not a big one, mind, formed on my trousers. Well, that was unexpected to say the least. I never expected anything like that to happen. So I was left with a little puncture wound and nice colorful bruising around on my right leg to remind me that knitting can be dangerous. Left leg and right leg? Oh my. Fast forward to last night, about 2 months later. My wound had healed completely, and I had even told this funny little story to a knitting friend who is also a medical doctor just this past weekend, and we had a good chuckle about it too. Last night, at about 1 a.m., I am sound asleep when the door to our bedroom opens and in comes our 20-year-old son and tries to wake us up gently, saying, "I'm sorry, Mom, Dad. I have to wake you up, but something happened to me. I was lying on the couch in the living room and I turned around and I got stabbed by a knitting needle." Well, we both woke up with a start, switched on the light, and saw his thigh with the knitting needle, the same one from the stabbing episode in August, stuck right in the middle of his thigh. He says, "I tried to pull it out, but I guess I'm in a bit of shock and it won't come out." My husband acted immediately, pulled the needle out, and took our son to the kitchen to take care of him. At that point, I was only able to lie down for a bit and breathe the shock out. Then I joined them in the kitchen, helped my husband tend to my injured baby, and returned to bed, absolutely spent and feeling sick to my stomach. My husband was just making sure I was not going to puke on our brand new mattress and fell asleep quickly, while my mind and heart were racing until I got tired enough to fall asleep again. Oh man. The moral of the story is, for me, never leave my knitting on the couch again. Not for the sake of protecting my needles against a breaking, but for the sake of protecting my family's lives. And next time I'm knitting socks on the plane, if there are any turbulences, I might just put my knitting aside because poking my eye with a needle seems like a real possibility. I don't know how this story does on the scale of funny to disgusting, but I cannot but wonder, has anything like this happened to anyone else? Please let me know. Oh man, wow, I have never had this happen. But many of us, in talking about traveling with knitting needles, have said, why are they letting us on the plane with these weapons? I mean, they're very sharp and dangerous. I mean, I guess equal to like a pencil, anything could be a weapon if you really needed it to be. But this is like within 2 months, and granted 2mm needles, I don't know what that translates to in US sizes because I only think in US sizes, but those are small needles, so they are like very pointy. And if they're pointy too, some of them have a lace tip, and those are very, very sharp. When we were at the park yesterday, the little girl who was talking to me said, "Is it sharp?" And I held it out. I was like, "Feel it." And it's the ones that I'm using, oh, here they are not that sharp. They're a little bit sharp, but not like the lace needles, but they're not like the Addy ones that are really rounded over either. I feel like it would take a lot of force for this to go into flesh, but those really pointy ones, it wouldn't take that much, clearly, as we have seen. So anyway, I responded to Adela and I said, you know what you need are these little stoppers. I got these adorable rainbows from Arkansas Yarn Co. and they go on the end of your needles. And I bought them mainly for cuteness, like that was my main motivation. But they also protect you from death. And they keep, Adela said, I always thought of those as just what you use to keep your stitches on the needle, but I never thought of them as a life-saving device, but maybe I should get some of those. I feel like you should. Maybe we all should. Like if you're using really sharp, pointy needles, even if they're in a bag, Adela's went through her bag, we should put those caps on there so that no one gets hurt. Oh man. That's the first story I've had like that, like where it's like a severe knitting injury. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that, Adela. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Hopefully I will not be sick for too long. My proofing cabinet will come on time and all will be well. Have a wonderful week. Love you guys. See you next time. Bye.